Welcome to Date with Danu, the naked truth. Today's edition is on sanitary napkin. Yes, the monthlies that sometimes men have to put up with if women are going through a bad mood, and women have to put up with no matter whatever happens to them, they have no choice. Wherever you are, what part of this country you can come from, you still suffer this luxury tax on it. But how important is it for us to talk about it? It is very important because it affects our future generation, it affects girls who go to school, it affects people who go to work, it affects people who wear white. These are things that we may think that we should not talk about. Ew, these are things that you want to bring on TV. But sometimes we need to shed a lot of light on these matters, because if you think it's just a woman's problem, it's not mine. Well, if you are born, then you have come from your mum, and your mum has the same problem. So let's talk about it. Welcome to Date with Danu.
Hi, my name is Anuki Premachandra. I currently work in the space of policy advocacy, and I'm the Strategic Communications Manager at AdFactors PR. I'm involved with this topic in the past because I've been an advocate against the taxes on sanitary napkins and overall towards economic freedom for women in Sri Lanka.
Hi, my name is Dr. Rashmira Balasuriya. I'm a medical doctor by profession, and I also work with the ARCA initiative. We are a group of young professionals involved in the field of sexual and reproductive health, and we provide practical and tangible support to the men and women in Sri Lanka. One of our projects is actually on menstruation and sustainable sanitation, which is why I'm here today to go on a date with Danu.
Hi, I'm Selyna Peiris. I am a director of Selyna. We are Sri Lanka's only fair trade certified handloom company, and we make beautiful handloom and craft products. I am also a lawyer and I'm an activist. And I guess that's why we're here to talk about handlooms and pads and on my date with Danu.
I'm here today to talk about the insanity of taxes on sanitary napkins. It's 2020. I can't believe we're still fighting for things like this, but I'm glad that Danu is using this platform to talk about issues as grave as this. So I'm looking forward to an interesting conversation.
So I'm here today to talk about my experience in working in the field of sexual and reproductive health, especially with menstruation and the lack of access to pads, the effect that has on people in terms of infections, cancers. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today.
Today we are going to talk about a big issue in Sri Lanka. It's also an issue around the world. And we are going to talk about menstrual hygiene and the lack of access of basic human rights for women. And that basic human right is the sanitary pad. It's as simple as that. It's 2020, and we really shouldn't be talking about women having access to sanitary pads as a human right, but we are. And we're going to talk about that problem because it's a problem.
So this is what we are talking about, a sanitary napkin. The reason why I brought it to a Date with Danu set is the fact that sometimes we feel these things should not be spoken about. Recently there was also an article about how women are shamelessly buying it openly in public.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is something that has been around ever since we have existed as humans. How do we talk about it? So I brought in three very interesting personalities to speak more about it. So welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you to make the introduction about yourself, as we are going to highlight three different angles with you. So I'll start from you.
Hi Danu, thanks for having me on the show. My name is Selyna. I head business development in a company called Selyna. We produce handlooms, so you must be wondering also why someone who's working with handlooms and craft and fashion and lifestyle is here to talk about pads. but again, like you said, it's everyone's problem, and we have created a reusable pad, which we can talk about later in the show, which really looks at addressing this entire problem as a whole.
Hi, so thanks Danu for having me as well. So my name is Dr. Rashmira Balasuriya. I work as a medical doctor, but I also work with the ARCA initiative, and we are a group of young professionals, all lawyers, doctors, teachers, and we work in the field of sexual and reproductive health, and one of our main projects is tackling period poverty and providing a sustainable solution for menstruation. So yeah, that's basically what I'm here to talk about.
Hi Danu, thank you for having me on the show and for using this show as a platform to talk about something as important as this. I'm Anuki Premachandra, and currently I work at a PR agency called Adfactors PR. What I do is policy communications, but I'm here because I've been an advocate against the taxes on sanitary napkins over the past few years, along with the Advocate Institute, and something that I want to push for is making the product as accessible as it could be for women by hopefully reducing the cost of it.
Brilliant. So there are three angles to this topic. We're speaking about a business point of view, how it should be brought into a everyday lifestyle where it's affordable, actually free, is what we all hope for, but affordable is the key angle. Then we have a doctor's point of view, because there's also a huge problem when it comes to infection that could travel. It could also come to a point where women's lives are in risk, and also that uncomfortable situation that a woman has to face. And of course, from a social point of view, as to how you can actually find a solution to it. Thank you ladies for being here, and I can't think of anyone else who has been very vocal about it. You all have championed it, and one of the reasons I called Selyna first and said I really have to talk about this, because I was so happy about this concept of reusable sanitary napkins. If you do go back in history, women did use cloth.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why this is kind of personal to me as well, as you know that I come from the war, and during the time of the war, my mum had few things that were very special to her, which she will hold very closely in her ever so ready run for your life war bag, and that was a bag of sanitary napkins, which she had bought while she was in Colombo, and when she got stuck in Jaffna, she just kept this one as a spare in case Akka or she needs it, because if you're in a camp, the last thing you can do is wash, or you need to find a solution. So for mummy, that was luxury, holding on to that one pack. So I remember up till 93 that used to travel with mummy, praying that she will not need to open it until she gets hit and are thrown into like a war zone. And so when we traveled from Jaffna to Colombo, that traveled with us. So that was like, I think 4 years old by that time. So it's so valuable if you do think of it. Tell me the current health problems that people come with.
So the current issue we have now is that because pads are still considered a luxury to a lot of people, especially in rural communities, they tend to wear maybe one pad for a very long period of time, or they use cloth and they don't change the cloth as frequently as it should be changed. So ideally we want them to change it every 4 to 6 hours, and it becomes a great medium for bacteria to grow. So with this, when they wear it for a long period of time, they can get irritation and rashes around the genital area, also a lot of reproductive tract infections, which can later, potentiate you developing cervical cancer in the long run. Also, urinary tract infections are quite common when you wear pads for a long period of time, or cloth for a long period of time actually. So they don't have, a lot of rural women actually don't have that privilege of being able to buy a pad and then disposing of it after 4 to 6 hours, because of the tax, and that's one of the main reasons I'm here today to kind of champion for that.
Yeah. Because sometimes if you are fighting with just 5,000 rupees for a month, where do you prioritize? Is it a pound of bread, or do you prioritize between buying 5 packs of this for the month? And especially if it's a household that has 2 to 3 girls.
Exactly.
And it's a battle. Selyna, talking about this reusable sanitary napkins, how did this brand Selyna think of it, and why did you bring it forward?
So again, I think just like you are inspired by your mother and her stories, Danu, my mom too had a very difficult childhood. She grew up in a household where money wasn't always there, right? And she talks about it very freely, and she talks about having had to use cloth and wearing a white uniform to school, not going to school because of that shame and because of that stigma. And at Selyna, we work with so many women who are in her position, and that's why Selyna is there, because the way that my mother came out of the position that she was in life, we want to assist people to come up in the same way. So when COVID happened, we realized that there are certain things that a woman needs, you know, and at the same time there's also a product that we can make, because with COVID, you know, our usual business streams had dried up, but at Selyna we always try to think what is the social mission that we can accomplish with our product. So,
and considering the fact that it is a woman army there,
absolutely, and I don't know why, like, we should have done it sooner, I guess, right? And that is when
So when you're working on it, did you think that the 20th, or like the budget with the 20th Amendment and the whole works will also not have a change in it?
No, the thing is, Danu, we've long since given up on government, right? We do what we have to do for the people of our country.
So even if the budget was red or not, this was coming to the market.
Obviously, right? So why we created this was first as a plastic-free alternative, because we are all about ethical consumption, sustainable consumption, and plastic, of course, is something that has to be eradicated from our consumer patterns, right? And then as this product came out, we realized, as in it was prototyping, we realized that, wow, this has so much potential, it's not just a product. So then we thought of how can we use this product to really solve Sri Lanka's problem, you know. So that is when the buy one gift one campaign was conceptualized, and what we are doing right now is when you buy a pad, we gift a pad, and now we are working with the ARCA initiative.
So that means they can gift it themselves, or you
we
gift it to a rural community?
We gift it to a rural community with full transparency. We are working with the ARCA initiative because, as Rashi said, it's not just about giving a free pad, it's about the awareness, it's about the advocacy around it. There are certain, like she said, you need to know when to change it, you need to know where your period comes from.
Education.
Exactly. So that's what the whole project is about. And Danu, I am of the strong understanding or conviction that business can do good, and Selyna is about that. We always talk about empowerment being the choice to say no, you know. Like you said, this is not a choice for a woman to buy this. Is it a loaf of bread, or is it a sanitary pad? So they're not having the choice to say no.
Correct.
So this is another project that we have conceptualized to give that women the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to choose to use this, and this is the way that we are working on it.
We're going to take a small break. When we do come back, we're going to speak to Anuki on the global perspective and where Sri Lanka stands when it comes to us looking at an international perspective to this. How is it affordable in other countries? How do they market this? We'll speak more when we do come back. Do stick around. It's Date with Danu, the Naked Truth. Welcome back to the show. Speaking to Anuki. Tell me now, you have been someone who has championed this for quite some time. Your social media has spoken volumes about it. Tell me, globally, where does the monthly cycle stand?
That's quite interesting. Well, I mean, Danu, you might already know this, but just last week in Scotland, they passed a bill where, you know, sanitary napkins are now available free of, period products rather, are available free of charge at public institutions. So the rest of the world really, even I think January 1st, 2019, Australia, they took off their taxes on sanitary napkins. India has championed this 2 years ago. So around the world you see a lot of progress, which is why it's frustrating that, you know, all these years later we're still trying to put this topic on the table. And I tell people, look, it's serious, we need to start talking about it, we shouldn't be making a joke around it. But that's what's happening, you know, in our context locally. But
so let's talk about the stigma a little bit. You know, the stigma when it comes to, so throughout my life I am dominated by women. I have 3 female dogs at home. Even they suffer the same problem. If they can use a sanitary napkin, they'll be happy to use it. Then I've always had a female co-host on my radio shows. So I know I've hosted with a girl called Joey, and I've hosted with a girl called Sam. I know when I should not mess with them, and I know when they do visit the loo. So I know this because they have been comfortable enough to have a conversation with me about it and tell me about it. Then I have my sister, and when my mum was around. So these were issues that were told to me, not because they wanted to cheese me out. It's just matter of fact.
Yeah.
How many men see it like this? Can women, in you working in rural level and things like that, can women actually speak about this to men? Even their husbands, their fathers, can they?
You guys can take up.
Because
or-
you
Yeah.
have worked.
So no, it's a big hush topic really. So even when we go out into the rural communities and we give them this reusable sanitary pad and say you have to wash it and then you have to dry it, then the thing is, how do we dry it? People will see, the
Koheda
neighbors
velanne,
will
because-
see. Yeah, koheda velanne,
Yeah.
my neighbors will see, the husband will see. We are
That's the biggest
ashamed.
problem.
And it's a huge, it's an issue because we didn't realize that there was such a strong stigma within the household itself. What will the husband think? What will my sons think?
Yeah.
You know, because it's not
Because don't
spoken
you
about.
feel it's the irony? I don't know, anyone can answer this. Because especially in Asian countries, when you attend age, it's the world to know.
Absolutely.
And especially in the Tamil community, you're put into a corner, then you are dressed like a bride, and you're brought out, and an album is thicker than a Bible, and then again after that you don't talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Rashmira is exactly right. Like when we were, I have the pad with me, when we were promoting this, we gave this as a focus group to our ladies to try it,
Right.
right? Because you need to try it.
Yeah, because a lot of people have moved, like at least in these urban society, a lot of people have moved away from reusable or even cloth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest issue was, I mean, when you open this, it's big. This is a night pad. Where do I dry this?
Yeah.
So it's the stigma that was stopping them from using cloth or using. So just as they are unable to afford the kind of synthetic option in the supermarkets, they are also ashamed to dry this. So it's like a double whammy. You can't afford the plastic option, and you are too ashamed to use the cloth option.
Then where
Does that leave you? And also there is the reality that this needs to be dried out in the sun for it to
Yeah.
take away the
Bacteria.
bacteria. So this is something that we are hoping through the awareness programs, we try to break this stigma too. So it's not just an economic problem, it's a cultural problem. It's a, I mean, it's really, and this is why, Danu, it's important that men, women,
Absolutely.
parliamentarians, everyone talks about this, because this is absolutely a basic human right for a woman. I mean, like you said, it's as natural as it gets. You have your period every month.
Exactly, it's like having.
You can't help it.
It's like
Yeah.
me having
can't
hay fever every day.
Exactly.
It's
I
a
can't
basic-
hide myself from
yeah.
sneezing. These days I am hiding myself from sneezing because everyone is saying I'm having COVID. Like, no, I've been sneezing all my life.
Yeah.
It has been a lifelong process of me sneezing.
Exactly.
A little bit about what we need to highlight is the fact that kids who go to school, it's such a problem, even though it may be an all-girls school
Yeah.
in white uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The smallest thing can show. Anuki, have you ever come across situations when you were in school? How have you dealt with it, and how was it? How is it today?
Absolutely. Whenever somebody asks me this question, right, you get all of these flashbacks of like running, you know, rushing into the washroom, like making sure nobody sees your stained dress.
Although you are in an all-girls school.
I wasn't. I was in a mixed
Okay.
school, but you know, it doesn't get any.
Yeah.
It's still
Exactly.
the
It's still
same
that, yeah.
throughout, right? And that's also because we haven't created those open spaces where you
Right.
can talk about these things, even with your friends. But yes, it's terrible, and I think this is a reality for most girls in Sri Lanka. Our uniforms are white, right? I mean, this is where the start of the problem is, and it's quite unfortunate. But
Another thing that we need to highlight is the fact that when people actually go and purchase this,
Yeah.
if it's at a pharmacy or kade down your road or anything, one, asking for it is a problem.
Yes.
If it's only Nimal who is there at the shop, Mokadone, then how to answer that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thang gediyat then. It's always so muted. And then wrapping it in a paper or
unacceptable.
in a
Brown
brown
bag.
paper bag. And they charge you ₹1 for the brown paper bag, by the way. They don't give that free. So you're paying ₹1 extra. Let's speak about this. You have worked with women from all walks of life, especially as a brand, Selyna. You have recruited women who have been either championing their household or their community. How do they handle this? And especially, they are the ones who are making it.
Yeah. So we asked them actually. I think, Danu, the thing is, they don't handle it. There are the reality in the country now is that there's so many more things that are more important for them. So this is where the whole, I just won't go to work, I just won't go to school, I'm just going to stay at home because I have my period. You know, like that's the reality. But I'm so proud of my production team who are mostly men at Selyna. You know, now they're cutting this, they're discussing this, they're prototyping this. You know, that's, I guess that is how you start. You normalize it. You know, it's nothing. I mean, again,
in
to repeat.
2020, we have to still talk
Oh,
about normalizing.
really, you know, I mean, exactly the point.
Yeah, we have sent people to the moon and back.
Exactly, but the reality is that you normalize it when men get up and talk about it.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, as I hate to kind of admit it and say it, we need everyone to accept that it's a human right. It's not a woman's right, right?
Yeah.
So, and that is I think that is the way, because especially after COVID, food has become so much more important. Like we see in our factories, women coming with rice and just sambal, right? I mean, how on earth do you buy this? It's not possible. And the thing is, the problem is so deep and it's so heartbreaking. And here we are laughing about it at a surface, but when you go down to the rural communities and it's heartbreaking, because you shouldn't have to suffer, you know. So that's why I guess everyone sitting here and you for having that's why it's important that we are passionate about this and we find a solution among us, because clearly people who are making policy are still laughing about it, right? So then what can we do? Can we have a community kind of driven movement to buy one and gift one? Can we solve
or completely take tax off?
I mean, you know, solutions is what we need.
Let's speak about the tax and let's speak about the price point when we do come back, because it's very important, because I think a lot of people did wait for the budget this time around. A lot of people waited for a few things. This was one of the most highlighted issues over the fact that it has been in conversation for quite some time. Let's speak about the price point when we do come back. Do stick around. It's Taking Back. Welcome back. So we're speaking about the price point when it comes to sanitary napkin. Especially this crew is so male dominant. They must be all like, how are you all talking about it? But it's very important that we do. So let's speak about the price point. I'm sorry, I do not know the price point. But tell me.
Okay. So I'll just give you a bit of an overlook of the whole thing, right? So when we're talking about taxes, there's two taxes that you pay. So in the sense of when you buy the imported product, you pay a tariff. That tariff is 52%. When you buy the local product, you pay the VAT. The VAT is 8%. So you're paying tax on both the products. So the options in the market range from, let's say, 100, even less than that. There are options available in the market, some brand names that are available. I've seen in candy, in certain places like that. So the price point could be about 80, 70 perhaps. It will start there, it will go all the way to 150 and then 250, 275, 300. That's kind of like the spectrum of where the prices are right now. And yes, so both products are being taxed at the moment, and that directly affects cost and price of the product too.
Ideally, what would be the right price for this to be out in the market if it's not going to be available free?
I'll tell you this, Anu. So it's very difficult to be able to say this is how much the price should be. What I think that we need to have is choice. A woman should be able to buy the sanitary napkin at 70 or less, please. or free, actually, yes, free. Or much less. Or if they have the option, I mean, sanitary napkins, tampons, period cups, all of these things, you should be having the choice. And women in Sri Lanka, they don't have the choice.
And does everyone know about tampons, period cups, because when I started doing research about this show is when I got to know about period cups.
Yeah.
And not everyone knows about this.
No.
No. So I think it's just there are different products in the market, right? And then I think what Anuki is also saying is that for those who need it for free, it should be available for free. I think you were talking about period-friendly toilets, maybe, you know, and then if you want to pay more for it, you can buy an imported menstrual cup.
Yeah.
You can do that spectrum, right? Don't you think?
Yeah,
Kath?
for sure.
Yeah,
So talk about
absolutely.
period-friendly toilets. How would you describe a period-friendly toilet?
So I also came across this term about 2 years ago, right? I was talking to really this teacher and from Monaragal, and she's been helping you know, girls. She's been sort of spreading awareness, doing a little bit of education on menstrual hygiene, and then she was telling me how in that school that she was teaching at, there were only 2 washrooms. So there was so it was a mixed school. So there was a boys' washroom and the girls, and then she said the younger girls and the older girls, they all share the same washroom. And then she was telling me how, you know, somebody would take the turn to take everybody's pads home and burn it, or because
They didn't have disposal.
they didn't have disposal mechanisms. And then when she told me this, I mean, it just dawned on me that this is a reality that most of us are not aware of, right? We don't have period-friendly toilets. I mean, this is just a fancy word to say period-friendly toilets, but at the base of it, like sanitation, you know, basic sanitation and disposal, you don't even think about these things, right? Unfortunately.
But you're right, because some of the schools that we visited as part of the ARCA initiative, they don't even have toilets.
And where are the areas that you all have visited, if you don't
So
mind?
we've done Mulathur, Batiklo, Monaragala, Gaul, you know, a lot of areas around, and these women don't use pads, they use cloth. So we went there to introduce the reusable pad as well as to ask them why they use the cloth, what is the problem that they have with the pad, to just see whether there's anything else surrounding this issue. And we spoke to a principal actually in Matugama, and she keeps a packet of pads with her just in case one of the schoolgirls suddenly gets a period while in school. And she was saying that even toilets are not, they don't have like proper toilets for girls to change their pads, and also a bin to put the pad away. So they would rather miss school than having to go through all of that, which is a huge problem for education in this country. Every month you're missing.
How many days of
you're
school do
missing?
you
Yeah.
miss, right? And just because you're a girl, I just think that, you know.
And it's also, Danu, like if you're looking at it from, so it's not a call to make pads free for everyone. Let's make pads free for the most rural schools. Let's make pads free in public toilets or whatever in rural. Let's
Or
make
at least a quota of pads given.
Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's a midwife, like a system. I think Rashi,
There's a midwives,
like
yeah.
midwives, like let them have access to pads for the poorest households. You know, it's about strategy, but and understanding what the rural communities need. But for that, you need to understand that there's a problem, right? So I guess that's where like these kinds of conversations become very important, because unless you understand the problem, you can't really find solutions for it.
I can only speak on the elements of where I have visited, and I have visited the north quite often, especially during the issues when the Kepa village was active, when places like this were active, where people just bled openly. Because if you have watched Slumdog Millionaire, that's a good example that I can give you if you can't relate to what the Kepa village was. We're talking about common toilets for over nearly 3,000 people or even more who are living in that one area. So sometimes you might have to wake up at 4 o'clock if you want to visit the loo at 7. And that's the reality. And this is not some time ago. This is not, I'm not reading this off a history book. I'm reading it off reality of us like 4 years ago. I don't know whether you came with us on that trip when we went. Not a trip, but at least a trip from here. But what we got to know was few options that were used when cloth was also not available, when you can't wash it, was coconut husk. How do you like sit? Then you're also expected in this world to like cook and look after your child
function,
and all of that. So how do you sort of go through with all of that when you have clots and clots of blood coming out of you, which sometimes you might find it very odd to talk about, but it is the truth. Like my sister has snapped at me because everyone reacts differently to periods. So some people go through terrible stomachache. I know of a girl who worked with me, she was in news. She'll always leave early because she gets a severe backache that she can't sit and she has to leave. She just can't. Some people get severe headaches and so everyone reacts. It's literally like you fall ill every month or sometimes more. Am I wrong?
The feeling, of course.
And also it's like your body tears inside and it rebuilds in preparation of a child which is not to be seen anywhere close by. So it's just so painful to even fathom the pain. Some people just live through it as nothing happens because some bodies are made that way. So if you are empathetic enough to understand that, it's much more easier. But here is where we come to speaking about women at work during these times. How should a boss react to this problem if you are a man? Let's speak more when we do that. Welcome back to the show. We're talking about the corporate world when it comes to the cycle. Three of you, well, you work for yourself now, but working fathers, how understanding is it? Can you actually make this as an excuse? Like, can you actually even say it? You have to just say, I'm going on a sick leave.
Well, in my current workplace, I feel like we have sort of an open environment, so I wouldn't see it that way. But I think that's important for, like, you know, between employers and employees to have that sort of, to, you know, why would you lie about it? This is a normal bodily function that is different from one woman to the other, right? But I also don't think that, you know, some employers look at it and think, you know, you just got to function, you've just got to deal with it, and that's a wrong approach to take too, right?
Depending on the situation of how that person reacts, because not everyone is wired the same way when it comes to this particular problem, because your body could react different ways.
Yeah, it's actually called dysmenorrhea when you can't.
There you go, that's what I was coming to you from a doctor's point of view.
So
please tell me, doctor.
It's called dysmenorrhea when your periods are so bad that they affect your day-to-day activities.
Okay.
And
so there's actually a condition named.
Yeah. And then you need to actually go and see a doctor because your period shouldn't affect your day-to-day activities. And you need to find out whether there's an underlying cause or not. But more often than not, there's no underlying cause. But there are painkillers that you can take. There are things that you can do. You don't have to suffer like that all the time. You know, you can be on birth control as well. That helps regulate your periods and make it easier. So there are options. But yeah, a lot of women don't know that. A lot of girls that I meet in the rural communities, they don't even know about hot water bottles that you can just help with the pain. So there's a lot of education that needs to be done surrounding menstruation, because in schools no one tells them this. No one talks about it because there are boys there or there's nobody to come and talk to them about it. So young girls really suffer during their menstrual periods because they don't know any options available to relieve the pain.
And also I think there's a stigma of how to approach this topic. And especially when sex education is still not openly discussed still. That's another show. I've done it. I've already done that one episode of it. Selyna, how do you handle it at your workplace?
Exactly. So I used to be, I think the long answer is that you need to have empathetic leaders in business, and it doesn't necessarily have to be women managers, right? So I think there's a lot of sensitization that needs to happen at a management level, and also very
open, clear conversation.
Exactly, because Danu, it's even on factory floors, even in the most kind of very kind of formal environment, I think workplaces are evolving, right?
That's true.
And more task-based work, you know, I think business employers really need to understand that the world is changing, and it's no longer I need to take a leave for my period. Can I have a restroom to go and lie down for 2 hours? Because that's sometimes all you need. Like my periods are so bad, I cannot function, I cannot walk, you know. And some people say, oh, don't take Panadols, it's bad for you, the blood flow will be more. I'm like, are you serious? You know, the Panadol is I'm not going to suffer for something that is so natural, you know. So it's a restroom. It's just going to be open and saying,
We are so Sri Lankans.
yeah,
like
you know,
that.
it's like boss.
Yeah.
Take it for everything.
Yeah, it's like, I have my period.
Yeah.
Can I use
it help?
the sick room for 2 hours? Can I lie down? So it's not necessarily a I'm not going to work or school. It shouldn't be that choice. It should be a how do you live with this, because it's so natural. That's what I keep repeating, right? So workplaces, employers, we all need to have that open conversations, and that's where what Rashi said, what Anuki said, the awareness. Men need to understand, my daughter has her period, what does this mean? I mean, even going beyond
What is the solution?
the solution is, I think, so
It's such a broad question.
That's
though.
true.
Yeah.
no, it's several, right? There's a lot of awareness that is needed. So, like you said, having the period party when a child attains age should be coupled with a what is a period?
Yeah, hello, here's
A
my
conversation.
For the
Yeah.
father, for the mother,
Yeah.
for the household, for the child.
Yeah.
What does this mean? Where does your period come from? what
Sometimes
does
kids
it
don't know
mean
what they're
to you?
celebrating.
Oh,
No.
not at
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
right?
No, I remember in school, everyone had attended age before me, and I was like, oh my god, I just want to bleed. You know?
Me
Because I
too.
just
Oh
want to
my
have a
God,
party. No, but
But you don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
don't know
right,
what's
yeah.
going
Because my
on.
mom was a
right?
teacher, and sometimes like she's taught in a Hindu school, so they'll bring like the biggest albums and things. It's like the first wedding that they go
yeah,
through.
exactly.
So my mom sometimes feels so bad because these kids don't know what in the world is
Yeah.
happening to them,
Yeah.
but they just know like make up them lasanata and dua biwa.
Exactly.
You got gifts, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but
it.
That's it. It stops there.
That it stops there.
Can the midwife intervene at that point? Like, we have a
Sure.
very good system in this country. I think one of the best in
Yeah.
One
South
of the best,
Asia.
yeah,
Yeah.
community medicine.
Can the midwife sit your parents down and say, look guys, this is what has happened to your daughter. Father, this is how it starts from there. And I think awareness is definitely one, and also I think community-led solutions.
Yeah.
How can we give out these pads and this awareness, and without waiting for that policy?
And you're giving
to
these
come to
blocks
us?
free, and for people to stitch on their own. And
Yeah, so that is the plan. But I think that's some of the solutions I can think of. What
Yeah,
do you?
yeah.
And what do you
exactly.
think?
So even with the ARCA initiative, what we've realized is we need to make something that's affordable for the rural communities. There's such a disconnect between the elected politicians and what is actually happening in the
Ground
communities
level.
at a ground level. So the ARCA initiative is also looking at like a social enterprise where we can help rural communities buy affordable pads and do away with the cloth, which is has a lot of problems with it.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, so like both Selyna and Rashmira, what they are also doing is trying to make the product accessible, right? And even from this point of view, trying to reduce costs, giving women a choice is again another mechanism of making it accessible. I mean, we were just having this chat too, because people get too caught up in the best way forward. And it's only now that everyone has an opinion on how this should be done. What happened to all of these keyboard warriors all of these years? This has always been a problem. And now you're coming to tell us these utopian, this should have been done this way. Great, do it.
Yeah.
Look at that. Like these reusable pads are being produced in the country now. This is great.
That's a solution.
It's a solution.
Exactly.
Work towards solutions.
After all, we are fighting for the 52% of our country, so we have
Exactly.
already lost the battle here as men. So make sure that you give in, and we need to make sure that we create that platform. All right, on the other side, we're going to speak a little bit about a man's point of view, somebody who actually openly did a video about it. Of course, he played both roles. We're going to have a quick chat with someone who has created social awareness about this cause, and also who fights for gender equality in all walks of life. When we do come back to this. Welcome back to the show. Before we wrap things up, I wanted to ask the ladies their final message before they leave the set.
Anuki.
Okay.
Okay, sure. So I think at the end of it, what we're all sort of trying to advocate for is make this product accessible. Right now, I mean, just talking about the taxes on it, there's VAT, NBT, cess, there's all of these different components, and at the core of it, it's taxed, and that's where the problem is, right? Be it import, be it the local product, be it the raw materials that come in to make the local products, it's taxed, and I think we need to be a little bit more strategic about it. And that's, I think, sort of what I would like to leave with, and just signal to policymakers, stop making this a joke. It's not a joke anymore, and take some serious action.
Yeah. And I think there also has to be a lot more awareness about menstruation as a basic biological process.
Yes.
From a school level onwards.
From a school level, from the grassroots itself,
For
up
both
to
gender.
institutions as well. Up to parliament, everybody needs to know about menstruation, I think, and that what the process is really. Because you can't make policies on something you don't know about.
If you don't know about it, you might also be someone who is living under a rock.
True.
That's also another.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't happen to 1 in every 1 million women, no?
Exactly.
Oh, you're one of those rare kinds. Wow, let's analyze you a little bit.
So from a business perspective, Danu, I think first and foremost, how can we be the solution?
Yeah.
You know, so
And how certain private corporates or organizations, factories could come forward, maybe supplied free.
Exactly. So exactly, how can we be the solution for both ends, for supply and also for empathy towards our own, because we have pockets of women who work for us. They are protected in our organizations, right? So then how can we bring awareness? How can, so that role I think private sector really has to take seriously, because we are talking about women being the backbone of this economy, in the garments, in the tea industries, in the all kinds of industries. But what are the private sector doing to address these kind of softer components? And I think business really can have the potential to do that good, and they must, is the key message that I would like to leave.
Thank you ladies for being here, for being open in this conversation, transparent. It's the most important thing. Thank you for initiating things that you all have all initiated in your own ways and means. And I think if you all ever need more people to speak about it, I think if there are men who will like to join these movements in collaborating and giving more information, please do raise your opinions on your comments. We'll be more than happy to get in touch with you. Thank you so very much to you. And we're going to be speaking to the very famous social media sensation these days, Kapila, who did a video with a pink wig. But about this topic, we're going to speak more when we do come back.
Hi, my name is Kapila Rasnayaka. I'm a founder of Voices of Humans and I'm a gender consultant. Today I'm here for Date with Danu. And today I'm here to talk about how men and boys can change their attitude and mindset towards the misconception of the periods and the social myths. Let's do that.
Welcome back to the show. Now in conversation with Kapila. Hi Kapila.
Hi, how are you?
Doing very good. Thank you for being on the show.
And thank you for the invitation. So this is a really good topic. I like it.
Brilliant. So what are you currently working on?
I'm working as a gender consultant for Ministry of Agriculture, and I'm a founder of Voices of Humans. So we are using theatre and art-based tools to talk about taboo topics such as sexuality, gender, women rights and human rights.
And you have always used comedy and theatre in terms of creating awareness about topic.
Yeah.
And I always say entertainment is the best tool to spread a very valuable information.
Yes.
Now, you took the initiative to talk about tax on sanitary napkins not being removed. What was the purpose behind it?
Actually, like Scotland became a first country, they give free pads and everything. But the problem is like this biological content, other things are social constructed. Biological, like periods. So what's the secret,
Yeah.
It's a biological thing, but the problem is because of the culture and because of the patriarchy and sometimes the religious ideologies and everything, and then some politics, behind this scenario, and the whole market space sometimes grabbing this biological thing to promote kind of stereotypical things to get some profit, tax. So that's the problem. I think this is a very biological thing. It's coming from it should come from education institution and family and media. But how many media people talking about periods? And even when they show this advertisement, they are putting different colors, not the blood color. But when you fight each other, we will put a lot of blood is going ooh, ooh, ooh. But when you talk about periods, they are putting what dampad or something, the purple color.
Yeah.
What?
Making it pretty.
Pretty?
Yeah. Not exactly.
But it's not a dirty blood. That's
don't attack me. So I'm not the one who's making that.
No. So yeah, we have understand.
Yeah.
I mean, but
tell me, how should men react to this?
Men should not react. Men should not react. Just understand this is a natural phenomena. and deconstruct this, all the learning you gain from this society and this shit. I mean, very professionally, if I say, like,
we have to beep a lot of these words,
very
but
polite.
it's fine,
Yeah, very polite. I mean, because we are saying that, like, all the boys and men, they socialize in a different way. That's why.
No, working with Voice of Humans, you would have
Yeah.
come across so many different types of lifestyle.
Yeah.
What is the heavy outline to it? Are people more accepting towards it, or men don't talk about it when their wives get it or when their daughters get it? How are the households?
I can see the huge difference, like the older generation and now. Now when I even conduct workshop for young people, especially they accept this thing. But still there are certain percentage of people, they're saying that it's a dirty blood or whatever it is, something like that. Then we deconstruct the idea and we give awareness and the knowledge how to understand this component. Because if someone's saying that, like, other human being living in this planet without knowing actually it's biologically it's connected to reproduction as well, and everything is connected as a human being, if someone criticizes based on this biological phenomena, it's myth. So therefore we have to work everybody together, media, religious people, political leaderships, as well as institutional, education
Platforms.
institution, everybody. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Kapila. You know, although it was a very short time with you on this show,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
a very
yeah.
strong amount of time with you.
Yeah, we need a lot of time to talk,
Yeah.
because especially we have to talk with men more time, because
Yeah.
we
To
have
understand their point of view.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, I will do that, and I will get you involved in that show.
Thank you, Danu.
Thank you
for
so very
this
much, Kapila, for
wonderful
being on it
initiative.
and being on the show to create awareness. So if you feel that you have the right to go to the washroom, if you feel that you have the right to have a shower, if you feel that you have the right to drink water, I think everyone should have the right when it comes to what happens humanly to them, to experience it, to express it, and to demand what's right when it comes to the problems that they face. Thank you so very much for being a part of Date with Danu this time around, where we spoke about another social topic that needed highlight. In our own little way, we are trying to contribute towards the big picture and a solution that will one day come about. Thank you so much for joining us. Until we see you with another cool episode to Date with Danu, it's a wrap.